Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Inshallah ta'ala, I pray that you're all well. And there are two webinars. The first one today is exploring the four interconnected stages of Islamic contemplation, tafakkur. And then next week, we're going to look how the contemplation depends on a number of things really, and you know, it depends on the individual, and we'll explore that next week. So the whole point of the Islamic contemplation is that there are four levels, and the fourth level is what we're all striving to aim for, which is ihsan, to be able to see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but knowing that we cannot see him, but knowing that he can see us. And we are basically, you know, wherever we do, wherever we go, we feel the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala around us, and we really do become, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-Baqarah, Alif Lam Mim, Dhalika al-Kitabu la rayba fihi hudan lil muttaqin, we become that muttaqi. And that connects us to the famous hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when the angel Jibril alayhi salam came and asked the Prophet three questions: what is Islam, Iman, and Ihsan? The first level is what we're going to deal with, then the second, and then the third, and then the fourth. But the ultimate level is level 4. Okay. Bismillah. First slide, please. So like everything, and this is why we started with Heartsea International, everything begins with the cave of Hira. It begins with the revelation, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. And as the ulama say, this was, and what was the messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam doing? He was in deep tafakkur, he was in deep contemplation in the cave of Hira. He was reflecting on the Al-Quran al-Takwini. He was reflecting on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation. And as the ulama say, this was now a transition to transform now how the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, saw the world, to connect to the revelation which was about to begin with Iqra, and then connect with creation. The Al-Quran al-Takwini connected together, is interconnected, and then deliver that message to the whole of mankind. Next slide. So let's begin with level 1. Okay, so level 1, and if we just go through the Quran, throughout the Quran, and you know, I've lectured on this many times, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reaching out to mankind, commanding mankind to study, to contemplate the natural world, and particularly in the Quran, to look and to see. And we've discussed how many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking us to look and to see it, and how, as we study the Arabic language, you know, why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perhaps in one ayah use the word ra'a, or for example walam tara, you see? Why then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will use basara and then nadhara? So different types of looking, different types of observing, different types of seeing, as well as the other sense that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really focuses on as well is also hearing. Not so much the taste and the smell. This is part of the journey which connects to everything else. But definitely in the Quran, very clearly, seeing, looking, observing, and hearing as well. The trouble is that we're living in such times where we are disconnected from our senses. Next slide. And what I'm trying to do, brothers and sisters, it's a very complicated subject. It's a very deep subject. The ulama have studied this for many years, past and present. So I'm just trying to simplify it for you. So using our senses has to be the first step. So the trouble is we are disconnected. And so when I keep talking about in Heartsea International about rewiring, what is the first thing to do? So it's about rewiring to see and to hear the world as it should be, seeing and hearing, particularly seeing everything as one whole, connected. And so we have to go through this process of rewiring, because I have always said before, you can go out into a wood, a forest, and as 99.9% of insan do, but they're not using their senses as they should be. Yes, they might be having a barbecue, they might be playing with the children, they might be walking, but they're not using their senses in the way that the Quran is asking them to use their senses. So there's a big difference between being present, on top of a mountain, being present at an ocean, being present in the woods, and nature connectedness. It's the nature connectedness which is the key to Islamic contemplation. And we need to really start to connect or reconnect with our senses. It's very important. It's not me saying this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying it in the Quran. Next slide. And the reason is, as I say, is because the majority of mankind is now in the cities. There is mass global urbanization. We're being pushed into the cities, deliberately conditioned to go into the cities. And, with all of the noise and the disruption that's going on, which it's not just affecting the natural world, insects, honeybees, migration of birds, it's affecting us as well. So, and it's causing mental illnesses, and so if you just look at this picture, it's like we're like a mass herd of animals. We wake up, we go to work, and we come home, and there's so much noise going on that all we're hearing is car horns, trains, tubes, sirens, people. There's no natural environment around us. We're completely oblivious to looking high into the sky. So what we need to do is transform how we see the world. Because I've said we're in a crisis of perception of how we see the world. So we need to stop, step back, and start to engage with our senses by making the effort. And it takes effort. It takes effort, and we're living in a time where the dunya is taking over our whole life. So we go to the surah, wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu s-salihati wa tawassaw bil haqqi wa tawassaw bis sabr. That verily mankind is in loss. Time is going fast. So one of the first things we need to do is to step back, breathe, and then if we look at the picture on the left-hand side, this is one of the first exercises that we need to do. Is called a sit spot exercise, where we start to engage with our senses and tune in with what's going on around us. Next slide. So the sit spot exercise. Now, what I'm trying to stress here, brothers and sisters, this is not a one-off. You can't go out one day and follow the exercise and then it's all change. Look, we are here as servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are here to have a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we're going to be questioned on a number of things when we leave this world. And the answers and the guidance is the Quran. Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. And as we know, when we go to madrasa, the maktab, the madrasa, that it requires effort. We have to work hard to engage, to be able to recite in Arabic, but also to understand. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will also test us. If you want to draw closer to me, he will test us. Even the prophets were tested. So who are we? Of course we're going to be tested. And Shaitan will also put the obstacles in front. Shaitan says in the Quran, he will wait for the believer in front, behind, and on the right and on the left. There's two positions he does not mention, top and below. That's the vertical connection. So it takes time, it takes effort. Okay, you have to find time. And the easiest way to do it, to reconnect your senses, is through the sit spot exercise. And this is where you go outside into your garden. You don't have to go into a forest, into your garden, and just sit there, or on top of the roof if you're in a city like in Bangladesh, and just sit there and just breathe. Okay, and just for 5 minutes, just maybe over 5 days, go outside and just sit there at different times of the day or once a day and just breathe and just breathe. Okay, and just sense what's going on around. And then you go out again, maybe the week after, and then you just begin to open your eyes and you just look. Okay, you could be in a garden with grass, with hedges and flowers. Just start to look. Begin to look into the sky and see birds. Then begin to use your sense of smell. Once you're feeling comfortable, this could be the second or even the third week. Okay, and it's only you that can know that, and will cover this, because it depends on a number of scenarios that we will cover next week. But once you're feeling comfortable and you're beginning to tune into your senses, not so much of taste, but sight, ears, maybe smell as well in the summer, of the aroma of the flowers, then let's get a sheet of paper, an A4 sheet of paper, and just you can either keep your eyes open or shut, and just sit in a favorite location, whether it's in your garden or you go to a wood, you see a nice tree, you feel comfortable there, you just sit there and keep going back to the same location. And then just go back and just begin, not with your sight, but begin with your ears. All the sounds that you hear, you might hear a bird chirping on the right hand side. So just mark it with an X, or draw a little sketch of a bird. So I heard a bird on my right hand side. You might hear a sound of a deer or a fox on my left hand side, although you can't see it. Okay, you might see a tree in front, and you might see a squirrel, or you might see other or hear other sounds. Just mark it down, and then do that maybe again over a week or 2 weeks. See, it's a long process. And then do the same exercise with your eyes. Okay, you see a bird, maybe if you can, sketch the bird. Okay, then start to sketch a tree, start to sketch a flower, start to engage with your eyes. Keep going back to the same location so you become familiar with that location. The more you go back, the more you become comfortable, then you'll start to see things that you just haven't seen before, and you'll start to hear things that you haven't heard before. So this is called a sit spot exercise. It's what children do, and it's what adults can do. And I teach this, and I urge you to do this. Next slide. So we need to look at the data. Okay, so this is level 2. Level 1, just to recap, 4 levels. Level 1 is to use your senses. Right, there's no time frame. You can't say, well, I can complete level 1 in 4 weeks. It's ongoing, and if you want to liaise with me to let me know how you're getting on, I can support you. Level 2 is to then, as you continually use your senses, is then with the A4 sheet of paper, is then to look at the data. So you're seeing a tree. Let's look at the tree. You begin to look at the biology of the tree, understand the difference between biology and ecology. Biology will cover the species of the tree, okay? Everything about the tree, the scientific name and everything about the tree, okay? So this is to look at the data and then look at the ecology of the tree. And ecology means the relationships, what's happening. So first of all, you're zooming in to look at the data, the biology, the oak tree, the palm tree, and you're collecting information and you're writing it down. And then you're zooming out, and then you're looking at the ecology, the relationship. So what is happening in the tree, wildlife, okay? What's happening outside on either side of the tree? So we start to look at a wider landscape. This is level 2. So of course it's connecting to the senses as well. Okay, next slide. And then the third part, which is still level 2, is then to begin your nature journey. Okay, and don't think nature journey was just for children. No. We teach this for adults. So on level 1, you've engaged with your senses. You're beginning to process and tune into your senses. Then level 2, you're beginning to zoom in on the biology to get the data. Then you're beginning to zoom out to understand the ecology of the bird that you saw, the tree that you can see, the flower that you can see. Okay, and then you develop a nature journal. So now you begin to go out to the same location, not a different location, to the same location. And each time you go out, you go through the same process. You go out, you sit, you pause, deep breaths, relax, engage your senses, and then you start to look and observe data, and then you collect everything on the biology and the ecology, and then you start to put it together in a nature journal. So now suddenly it's all coming alive through pencil, through watercolor, through oil paint as well. Whatever you feel, or diagrams or stickers, whatever you feel. So then when you go back home, now you can collect all of this, okay, and explore it and start to connect everything like a jigsaw puzzle. Now this is nature connectedness. We're still on level 2. All right, next slide. Level 3 is where we cross the boundary. We look at the patterns of what we're looking at. We look at the Earth's 4 spheres. We look at the principles of nature, and we've covered the principles of nature many times. Just look at my previous videos. We look at and they are interdependence, adaptation, health, cycle, patterns, diversity, and oneness. This is how the natural world works, okay? And so back to the tree, we're in our favorite sit spot location. We are using our senses to explore the tree in front. We're looking at the patterns of the tree. The obvious pattern would be branching. Then we look at the Earth's 4 spheres, which is around the tree. Then we start to look at the wider picture of the tree. Okay, what's connected to the tree? What's the ecosystem around the tree? Okay, we look at the health. We look at all the cycles through summer, autumn, winter. We look at the diversity of life, and of course we realize that it's all connecting. Okay, now this is level 3, and once we get level 1, level 2, even a non-Muslim can do. So there's no difference, okay, whether you're a Muslim or non-Muslim. You go outside, you do this, and so the non-Muslim would benefit the same as a Muslim. Level 3, but it requires a lot of work. This isn't easy. It requires a lot of hard work, as it does to become a Muslim. Okay, once we declare the kalima, then we're going to be tested. And so to be able to be able to understand the Quran, it requires work, it requires effort, it requires tazkiyah, purification. Okay, it requires the rewiring, right? And you have to be in the company of the ulama, qulum as-sadiqeen. So level 3 is crossing the boundary. This is where level 3, you've spent so much time doing this. Now we could be talking about months. That now you really can see the beauty, the oneness, the perfect design, the order in creation. And level 3 is now you're beginning to see the verses the ayat come alive in the Quran. Okay, you're beginning to now penetrate the Quran, and you're beginning to study the Quran and all of the ayat regarding the natural world, and then you're also connecting that now to the ayat in the natural world. So you're going from the revelation to the al-Qur'anul Taqwini. That's level 3. All right. Next slide, please. And then the highest level that we all make dua to reach is spiritual cognition, to the point of ihsan, to reach the ultimate point that, subhanallah, you know, we're walking, we're resting, whatever we're doing, we feel the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala around us. Whether we're looking at the flower, we're looking at the bird, we're looking at the tree, we're just not looking at the ayah, but we can connect to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's names and his attributes, and this immense love, this love and inshallah ta'ala, you become, inshallah, make dua, we all become a wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, men of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in my life, in my studies throughout the world, has blessed me to be in the company of a number of ulama that are at this high level, which is just, I can't describe it. So we must make dua. The 4 levels, level 1, level 2, anybody can reach. Level 3 is when we go over the boundary. Okay, we've gone through level 1, we've gone through level 2. Now level 3 is everything that I've studied, everything that I can see, I can sense. I'm seeing order, I'm seeing perfection, I'm seeing the Creator. And you will know, only you will know once you get to that level, and then we make dua that then Allah then raises us up to get to that level 4. Next slide. Connecting to the al-Qur'anul Taqwini. Okay, this is the message throughout the Quran. The commands by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why don't you see? Why don't you look? Why there's so many ayat in the Quran about the natural world? And am I talking strange? No, because this is what our beloved messenger, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, was doing. And as we said, we started with Iqra, read. The messenger, peace and blessings be upon him, could not read. So what was he to read? He is now to read the natural world by connecting everything to the revelation. And we can only do this if we make effort and we go through this process. Okay, we won't achieve it by sitting at home. We won't achieve it by just going onto Google or our mobile phones. Okay, we have to make the effort by connecting and learning about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation, because that's the command in the Quran. Okay, next slide, please. Are we there now?
Yes, sir.
Alhamdulillah. So that was the last slide. So again, just to recap, the 4 levels of Islamic contemplation. Okay. Whether we reach level 4, we just make dua. Everything begins with intention. The hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, okay. But the first, and this is connects us to the first principle of Heartseed International, is the rewiring. And what is rewiring? It's tazkir al-nafs. Okay, it's the purification, and that was what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was doing, particularly in Mecca. Before he can deliver La ilaha illallah, then that shirk has to be taken out. Okay, that dirtiness has to be taken out before the purity then comes in. Okay, and so, you know, the majority of mankind, they're, as the Quran says, they're deaf and dumb. Deaf, dumb, and blind, because we are just not seeing. Okay, we become like robots, and it's going to get worse. And we have the opportunity to do something about it. Even if you're in Dhaka, in Bangladesh, New York, Los Angeles, okay, then when there's no wildlife, there's no forests. So what do? You go on top of your roof and you put plant pots there. You establish your own rooftop garden. You will bring in insects. You will bring in birds, okay? And apart from that, just begin to look into the sky, because even in the city, there are many bird species, okay? So again, you can use so many ways. So there's no excuse for no one to not do this. Yes, if you're next to a forest, you're next to an ocean, you're near a mountain, alhamdulillah, even better. And if you have your own small garden, if you keep returning to the same spot each time, it will transform how you're seeing your own small, how you're seeing your small garden. You may have been living in one place for many years and you thought, wow, I never knew we had so many insects. I never knew we had so many birds. I never knew we had so many different species of tree or flower. But remember, they are all ayah, and they will then connect you to the names and the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so next week, we're going to cover some key points about how the journey through the 4 levels can affect individuals, because like anything, everybody goes at their own pace. Some people can go fast, some people go slow, some people will struggle. And so we look at different aspects, such as culture, such as knowledge, such as location. So we'll address this next week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.